workers. We have Patrick Alexander, who's a bus driver and drives the number 18 bus, Adrian Miller, a science teacher at one of our community colleges, and Rachel Childs, who is a mental health nurse. She's working tonight, but she's left us a video message. Unfortunately, we heard today from Anthony Browne, who is the MP, that he is undergoing emergency dental treatment today, so he can't attend with us. However, we are going to record the meeting as we intended and send the recording to him to ask for his support for pay increases for our key workers. So the meeting agenda will be as follows. We'll hear from the key workers, and then we're hoping to keep this meeting to about 30 to 40 minutes. It's relatively straightforward. During the meeting, if you experience any issues or if you are a victim of Zoom bombing, please stay calm and wait for Peter Monaghan to give instructions. And you'll see that there's a code of conduct posted for this meeting in the chat now. Just to remind you also that we are going to record this meeting, so if you do not wish to be recorded, please either turn off your camera or unfortunately please leave now, but we would like you to stay. Okay, so before we get going, I want to take the opportunity to set the scene. During the pandemic, key workers never stopped. When the shelves had to be stocked, retail workers were there. When hospitals were at breaking point, nurses and doctors were there. When children needed support and care, teachers and teaching assistants were there. While many of us stayed at home, key workers went to work and risked their lives to take care of all of us. And after decades of going unnoticed, the pandemic has pulled back the curtain and revealed just how much we rely on nurses, healthcare staff, care workers, retail delivery workers, public transport workers, teachers and support staff, cleaners, energy workers, and so many others. And if I haven't named you, please do not be offended. Many of us are key workers, whether or not we know it. So from rainbows in our windows to clapping for carers and helping out our neighbours, it's been amazing to see how the pandemic has brought the best out in people, showing how we can pull together and look after each other. But we know key workers need much more than applause and appreciation. They need action for all they do. Key workers get paid 8% less than the average. That's why key workers are calling on the government to give them a pay rise. All across the country last week, meetings like this have been happening to ask MPs to listen to the experience of key workers and support the TUC campaign. Okay, so now we'll start. If Ian can share his story and tell us why you think key workers deserve a pay rise. So 3 minutes from Ian. Over to you. Sorry, not Ian. Sorry, we did say it was going to be Patrick. Sorry, apologies.
You can obviously see why now.
Yeah, you can see why now. Apologies, my mistake. So Patrick, over to you.
I did a specific script for Mr. Browne. Obviously, he's not going to be here, but I'll go through the script anyway.
Yeah.
Good evening. I'm Patrick Alexander, Branch Secretary for the Unite the Union at Stagecoach in Cambridge, and I'm a bus driver. I often drive the number 18 service that runs through much of the South Cambs constituency to Camborne. I do remember the village of Kingston being absolutely adorned with posters for Anthony Browne during the election. Firstly, I would like to thank you and the government for the support you've given the bus industry with the COVID-19 bus service support grant, which covers pre-tax losses and is costing about 27.3 million a week. And of course, not forgetting the furlough scheme, without which myself and many of my colleagues in the industry would now be unemployed. Plus, more than a few of the smaller bus companies would have had to close their doors. I do hope this government will continue to fund the industry for as long as it's necessary, as promised by Grant Shapps. I can tell you that without the funding, we would be unable to provide a proper service, as we are only carrying around 20% of pre-COVID passenger numbers during this lockdown. We were up to about 46% before then, but still nowhere near enough to survive without that funding. My managing director, Darren Rowe, has said that you, Anthony, are more than welcome to come to our County Road depot for coffee and a chat with our management team at any time. And of course, to meet our cleaners and other staff and make sure our buses are thoroughly cleaned and COVID-free for the morning runouts. Plus, you will see just how much hard work goes into running a bus service. Although any pay rise I personally would like to get from my members is for me to discuss with Stagecoach and not an issue for your government. I do, however, wholly support pay rise for key workers such as the police, firemen, council workers, and of course teachers and the NHS staff, whose pay is decided by your government. I do feel that the NHS staff who are working in extremely difficult circumstances deserve far more pay than they are getting now, and I would hope you feel the same.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Patrick. And I think earlier when you were talking to us, you made the very important point that, of course, bus drivers keep key workers working, bringing them into work every day. So it's a key service. Thank you. Okay, so I'll now call on Adrian. Adrian.
Hi, my name's Adrian Miller. I'm a physics teacher at Trumpington Community College, which is a brand new community college just around the corner from Addenbrooke's. It's a £24 million state-of-the-art building. We've got lots of resources and we service the local area. The one thing we're short of is teachers. That's why someone as old as myself is still there teaching physics or attempting to teach physics. Why are we short of teachers? Well, this lockdown has really brought that home to me in that a lot of our younger teachers in particular, who can only afford a single room in a shared house in Cambridge, rather than spend all their time in lockdown in one room, have continually come into school because we're an open plan building. Now, we know how much young people have missed schools. We know that on a purely academic front, but also most importantly in their emotional well-being. And I think most people will agree that having an education service and having enough teachers is a vital aspect of that. But because of the cost of living in Cambridge and because of the pay of teachers, that we really struggle, even though we've got lots of government support, as I say, a brand new open plan building, lots of playing facilities, AstroTurf, floodlights, computers, laboratories, we have all that. But if we haven't got enough teachers to teach the young people, then we are stuck. And we are particularly short in physics, computing, maths, the same throughout the national picture. Now, we want our young people to be competitive. We understand they have to compete in a global market. But we need to have teachers, and we need to have younger teachers, not people in their 60s like me, still continuing. So one of the things I find interesting is that our teachers have continued to come in. They have supported the key workers, students who've been in school. They've been in classrooms where students have tested positive for COVID. We've had colleagues test positive for COVID. Unfortunately, we've had colleagues suffer from long COVID. So teachers have risked themselves for that. They hate the idea of spending all their hours in a single bedseat in shared accommodation in Cambridge, and therefore it seems a great pity that I myself often have to teach more than one class simply because we don't have enough teachers. We need to amalgamate classes. So one of the things I would like to say to you, Anthony, is that I do hope that you will support this campaign for a pay rise for key workers, not just teachers, but the other key workers, and you'll hear from the nurse coming after me. And because it is so important that we give our young people a viable and positive future. So please, Anthony, can you not just support teachers, but all key workers? Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you very much. Just to mention, before we have the video from Rachel, that the TUC have estimated that in the Cambridgeshire South constituency, there are 8,699 public sector key workers. So that's really, really significant. Of course, it includes the massive Addenbrooke site. They've also estimated that if the pay freeze does go ahead, and if the budget doesn't produce an increase for key workers, the amount that those key workers will lose is £5,157,294. So that's really, really significant. Okay, so I think we're ready to hear from Rachel Childs now, who works as a staff nurse at Fulbourn Hospital.
Hi, my name's Rachel and I'm a mental health nurse at Fulbourn Hospital in Cambridgeshire. Being a mental health nurse on a ward is a really varied role. We support people at their most depressed and hopeless. We're there to reassure our patients when they're suffering from hallucinations or paranoia. We dispense medication, we give injections, and we also need to be willing to roll up our sleeves and mop bodily fluids off the floor. COVID has had a huge impact on my job. I admit that I have been scared when nursing COVID positive patients because as a nurse I've seen firsthand how this disease affects people. I've seen healthy young adults who are still struggling with long COVID, they're exhausted, they're unable to work months after the initial infection. We lost a colleague to COVID as well, which brought home what the disease can do. Her children were left without their mother and the world lost a really bright, caring person who was dedicated to helping others. Our job has always been hectic, but in the last few months it has been really, really challenging because people are coming to us now more intensely mentally unwell than ever before. And there is no end in sight. The fallout from the pandemic is going to affect mental health for a long time to come. On my days off, I'm exhausted. I often stay in bed all day and my colleagues have said the same. One day last year during the first wave, I was out for a walk when Clap for Carers started and the little cul-de-sac I was on was suddenly full of people clapping and cheering. And when I got to the end of the road, two elderly ladies called out to me, "Are you a nurse?" And I said, "Oh, I'm only a mental health nurse." And they insisted on calling me over and personally wanted to express their thanks and appreciation. And it was really moving actually to have that moment of feeling valued. Housing costs are a huge source of stress. It's something that I worry about every day because Cambridgeshire is my home, but I'm struggling to afford the rent here and obviously a mortgage is out of the question. And it can make you feel unwanted because the housing market seems designed to drive you away from the place that you've lived your whole adult life. And A pay rise would mean a lot to me, as that would alleviate some of the stress. So my question for you is, will you support a pay rise for key workers?
Right, thank you, Rachel. So we've heard from local key workers, and Martin's posted some other job titles that we shouldn't forget. There are, as I said, there are many job titles within key workers. Cleaners, postmen, carers, waste disposal people and shop workers, and many others. So we now want to put our demands to Anthony Browne, who will be listening to this. So, Mr. Browne, we know that key workers, both public and private sector, need a pay rise, and we would like to ask you to support the text below to Chancellor Rishi Sunak to demand a pay rise. So we know the budget is tomorrow. Whether or not he puts in a pay rise for key workers, we still wish you to represent what we're saying to him. So the text of the letter, which we are asking Anthony Browne to support, says, "Dear Chancellor, we are writing as a group of MPs to raise our concerns about announcements made on pay for key workers in your spending review of November 2020. Key workers across a range of sectors in our constituencies have put themselves on the line to serve our communities and keep our economy going in this unprecedented crisis. Many of those key workers are telling us that they do not feel they're getting the recognition they deserve or being properly valued for their work. Many are public service workers facing another government-imposed pay freeze. We call on you to use the March budget to revise your proposals and give key workers the fair pay they deserve and that our economy needs. We call on you to give key workers a pay rise." Now, I would like to give you the opportunity to respond to what you've heard from key workers tonight. So you can contact us. In fact, we positively invite you to contact us to respond. And the important question is, on behalf of key workers in your constituency, will you tell us that you will sign this open letter? So, to the audience, a question to you. Hands up, everyone here tonight who thinks that the MP should support this letter. So you can use your virtual hand or your real hand, but hands up. Fantastic, fantastic, thank you. So I think that's unanimous. So we're going to finish recording now.